Hi everyone, Ken here. Today I want to talk about Tesla's FSD and Robotaxi. And I'll say this right up front. This is no longer a story about the future. Tesla has entered the phase where autonomy is starting to step into the real world, and that shift is happening more quietly and more strategically than most people realize. If you're a Tesla investor, this matters because what I'm going to share today isn't about flashy demos or hype. It's about how Tesla is positioning autonomy to actually work in society and why the market may still be behind the curve. Here's the core takeaway in simple terms. Tesla's autonomy story has moved on from can we build it? Now it's about how do we integrate it into real life? And what's fascinating is how differently Tesla is approaching this depending on the region. In Europe, Tesla is focused on showing how FSD can change everyday life. In China, Tesla is quietly preparing to actually operate robotaxis. Same technology, very different strategies, and that tells us a lot about where Tesla really is in this cycle. Let's start with Europe. Tesla has begun FSD-related real-world demonstrations there. But these are not the kinds of demos that grab headlines. No big city showcases, no dramatic autonomous drives through downtown traffic. Instead, Tesla chose rural and regional areas, places with aging populations, places where public transportation is weak, places where not being able to move freely directly limits quality of life. And that choice is extremely intentional. What Tesla is doing in Europe is not about proving technical superiority. They're answering a different question. What changes if this technology actually exists? In these regions, FSD is framed as a shuttle, a mobility lifeline, something that allows people to stay independent longer. And this is a subtle but powerful shift. Tesla is no longer asking society to trust autonomy because it's advanced. They're asking society to accept autonomy because it's useful. This is where a lot of investors miss the point. In Europe, regulation doesn't move just because technology is impressive. It moves when society sees value. There are regulators, there is public opinion, there is politics. Tesla understands that. So instead of pushing for immediate approval, Tesla is building a narrative, one example at a time, one community at a time. This helps people live better lives. That's the argument. And here's why that matters strategically. Tesla is deliberately shifting the debate away from is this dangerous or safe toward is this necessary? Once a technology is seen as necessary, the regulatory conversation changes entirely. That's not optimism. That's how policy actually evolves in Europe. Now, let me pause here and add an unexpected but important insight. Most people assume Tesla struggles in Europe because regulation is strict. But in reality, Europe can be one of the strongest long-term markets for autonomy. Why? Because once social legitimacy is established, adoption can be incredibly stable, not fast, but durable. Tesla isn't trying to win quickly in Europe, they're trying to win permanently, and this is where the bigger picture starts to form. While Europe focuses on social acceptance, Tesla is doing something very different elsewhere. And that contrast is where things get really interesting. Because at the same time these quiet FSD demonstrations are happening in Europe, Tesla China made a move that barely made the news, but carries enormous weight. And to understand why, we need to look at what Tesla did there and what it deliberately did not say. That's where we'll pick up next. In the second half, we'll break down Tesla's China strategy, why silence can be louder than announcements, how this ties into robotaxi execution, and what all of this means if you're thinking like a long-term investor, not a trader. Stay with me. So let's shift to China. This is where Tesla's autonomy story changes tone completely. In China, Tesla didn't host an event. There was no bold announcement, no flashy robotaxi reveal. Instead, Tesla China quietly posted several job openings related to robotaxi development. At first glance, that might not sound like much, but when you look closer at the details, the signal becomes very clear. These roles weren't about early research or experimental software. They focused on things like low voltage systems, circuit design, and what Tesla internally describes as the nervous system of a robotaxi. That wording matters. This isn't the language of a company still asking, can we make this work? It's the language of a company preparing something to operate in the real world. And there's another detail that matters just as much. The location was Shanghai. Tesla uses Shanghai when speed and execution matter. We've seen this before with manufacturing. We've seen it with cost optimization. And now we're seeing it again with autonomy. Here's my analysis. In China, companies rarely talk about big initiatives until they're very close to execution. Unlike the US, where vision is often shared early, China tends to value results over storytelling. So the fact that Tesla posted these jobs quietly is not a lack of confidence. It's the opposite. It suggests preparation, not experimentation. This brings us to an important contrast. In Europe, Tesla is working on social acceptance. In China, Tesla is working on operational readiness. Two regions, two different phases, one unified strategy. Tesla is not waiting for autonomy to be perfect everywhere before acting. They're advancing each market according to what that market actually requires. That's not something you do if robotaxi is a distant dream. That's something you do when you're preparing for scale. Now let's zoom out and compare Tesla to the competition. Yes, companies like Waymo are already operating robotaxis. That's real, and it shouldn't be dismissed. But most of these systems rely heavily on high-definition maps, fixed routes, and carefully controlled environments. They work well, but only where everything has been pre-mapped and pre-approved. Change the city and you start almost from zero again. Tesla's approach is fundamentally different. Camera-based perception, end-to-end learning, a single software stack trained on global data. This takes longer up front and it looks messy during development. But when it scales, it doesn't just scale to one city, it scales to countries, to continents. That's the trade-off Tesla is making. And this is where the market often struggles. Wall Street tends to price what it can model easily. Robotaxi revenue that's 5 or 10 years away is often discounted almost entirely. So today, FSD and Robotaxi are still treated as optional upside, a nice if it happens scenario. But what we're seeing now suggests something important. The question is no longer, can Tesla do this? It's becoming, where does Tesla deploy first and how fast does it expand after that? That's a very different stage. Let me add one unexpected but critical point here. When technologies move from development into deployment phases, they often don't show up gradually in financials. They appear suddenly. One quarter, nothing. Then suddenly, pilot revenue. Then partnerships. Then margins people didn't model. Markets tend to react late to those transitions. So, what does this mean for long-term investors? It doesn't mean robotaxis will be everywhere next year, and it doesn't mean Tesla's stock should double overnight, but it does mean the risk profile is shifting. We are slowly exiting the era of theoretical autonomy and entering the era of early execution. That's when valuation frameworks start to break. If Tesla begins operating robotaxis in even a limited geography, the conversation changes fast, not because of immediate profits, but because the market is forced to acknowledge that autonomy is no longer hypothetical. And once that happens, the timeline compresses in investors' minds. Tesla stock is currently trading around $478. At that price, the market is still treating Robotaxi as a future option, not a developing business. The question you should be asking as a long-term investor is simple. When the first real Robotaxi operations become routine, will the market already be positioned for that reality? Or will it have to reprice Tesla all at once? That's the lens I think matters most right now. Not daily price action, not short-term volatility, but recognizing when a company quietly moves into a new phase before the numbers force everyone else to notice. All right, that's where I'll leave it for today. If this perspective helped you see Tesla's autonomy story differently, feel free to hit the like button. And if you're looking for calm, long-term analysis on Tesla, AI, and the future of mobility, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and as always, enjoy life with Tesla. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to introduce myself. I drive a Tesla Model Y, and at home, I've installed a Tesla Powerwall, so I actually charge my car with solar energy. I truly believe Tesla is shaping the future, and that's why I share the latest news and insights here on this channel. I'm from Japan, but I want to connect with Tesla fans all around the world. That's why I also create an English version of my videos. YouTube now lets you switch the audio into your own language, so you can enjoy it in whatever language you prefer. Most of all, I'd love to connect with Tesla fans everywhere so we can support Tesla together. I also share updates on X, so feel free to follow me there and let's connect. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.